Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for visiting the YouTube channel for bestbiblecommentaries.com. In this video, I'm going to talk about 10 commentary volumes that have been impactful to me that aren't especially well ranked. They're not considered, I don't think any of them are in the top 5 with respect to their particular book of the Bible that they cover. That doesn't mean they've received negative reviews. There's just a lot of commentary volumes that never get reviewed or receive very little reviews. And so there's this kind of middle category. And I just want to talk about some of those volumes that have been impactful to me, because a lot of times on this channel, I'm talking about the best reviewed and I'm talking about new releases. So I kind of wanted to show kind of that middle category. So leave comments down below if there's been a commentary, maybe one of these, or a different volume that you know isn't considered among the very best for their book of the Bible, but has been impactful to you. Go ahead and leave a comment on why that volume has been impactful to you, and so other people can read it and maybe get a recommendation. So I'm just going to talk about each of these briefly. The first one is the Genesis record by Henry Morris. The reason why I like this commentary is because it has a strong devotional flavor to it, and many of the best reviewed commentaries on Genesis are more mid-level and don't have as much devotional reflection. And so depending on the purpose why I'm using a commentary, whether it's just for personal edification or for teaching, that might dictate what kind of commentary I will use to seek wisdom. And so sometimes that's a mid-level commentary, but other times I'm looking for something a little bit more devotional in nature. And so that's one of my favorites on Genesis. Here's one on Exodus by John Currid in the Evangelical Press Commentary series, and there's actually 2 volumes that cover Exodus in this series, and I'm just showing the first one because actually I only have the first one. In my experience, the second half of the book of Exodus, or the tabernacle section, is pretty similar from commentary to commentary. That's been my experience. And so for this one, I just have volume 1. What led me to this commentary is one of my favorite Exodus commentaries is the Exodus volume in the New American Commentary series by Douglas Stewart. And he actually referenced this multiple times. And so I thought, okay, I'll just get that and add that one to my shelf as well, because I liked what he was saying about that. So that's the reason why I got that one. Richard Pratt, his 1st and 2nd Chronicles commentary in the Mentor series, I have used off and on for a long time. I've listened to dozens and dozens of lectures from Richard Pratt teaching about the Old Testament. I just like his teaching style, the way he explains things, just even his voice. He makes things easier for me to understand. That's what led me to this particular volume. And his writing is similar to his speaking. It's easy to follow for me. And especially with 1st and 2nd Chronicles, doing a deep dive into a mid-level commentary or a technical commentary on these books can be a little bit challenging. And so Pratt just writes in a way that just keeps my attention, especially as you're going through all the lists of names in 1st and 2nd Chronicles. Another one that's been impactful to me that's not especially well ranked, I should say, not well reviewed, but just well ranked. It's probably doesn't have very many reviews, but the Message of Nehemiah by Raymond Brown in the Bible Speaks Today commentary series. I remember seeking wisdom from this book when I was preaching through Nehemiah, and I really enjoyed it. This is not to be confused with, this Raymond Brown is not to be confused with the Catholic scholar Raymond Brown, who has written a lot on Christology, if I remember correctly. I'm not that familiar with that Raymond Brown, but this Raymond Brown has written a couple of volumes in the Bible Speaks Today series. So Nehemiah is one of my favorites. An expositional commentary that I've liked is Philip Graham Reichen's Ecclesiastes volume in the Preaching the Word series. This now has a different color. A different cover on it. It's like an all-white cover in the Preaching the Word series, but I just haven't bothered to replace my volume. And so Ecclesiastes, subtitle, Why Everything Matters. And so this is kind of sermons that have been turned into a commentary. That's what the Preaching the Word series is. It's helpful to pastors and helpful to people who want a devotional approach to a particular book of the Bible. That's what I would recommend the Preaching the Word series for. I just like Philip Graham Reichen's writings. He also gave me a really nice blurb review for my website. So I'm not quite being objective when I say that I like his commentaries. Here is Matthew from the Teaching the Text commentary series. This series has actually been discontinued now, but Matthew by Janine Brown was one that was released before the series was stopped. And it's kind of a textbook type approach. It's an introductory level commentary, I would say, but it's super high quality. There's a lot of visuals. Sometimes you can use introductory commentaries to kind of get an overview of a passage before you use another resource to kind of do the deep dive. And so I think the Teaching the Text series is good for that. Now, the Matthew volume, I think, was one of the best in the series. Another series some may not be familiar with is the Exegetical Guide to the Greek New Testament. This one's by Alan J. Thompson. And you might be familiar with the editors as well, Andreas Kostenberger and Robert Yarbrough. This series can be used by pastors. Students who are studying Greek would benefit from it, but also pastors would benefit if they do Greek exegesis as part of their sermon preparation. And then every section ends with this homiletical suggestions. So in this case, Luke 5, 1 through 11 is subdivided into 4 points that it would preach pretty well. There's some alliteration there. The power of Jesus, the purity of Jesus, the pardon from Jesus, the priority of Jesus. So as they say, that'll preach. But that's kind of an underrated series. So that's a volume to consider in that series. The well-known F.F. Bruce, he has some really well-reviewed commentaries on other books of the Bible, like Hebrews. This is one on John. This isn't considered one of the top tier anymore, and that's okay. But there's still benefit from using it. I would call it mid-level. Pastors would benefit from it, I think. I remember reading it probably 25 years ago. And I enjoyed it. Here's another one. This is one of the first commentaries I read straight through. It's kind of beat up now. This series is now the Understanding the Bible commentary series. James R. Edwards is the writer. One of the things that I've always liked about Edwards is that there's some writers that help the reader understand the trees really well, and James Edwards has always helped me understand the forest really well when it comes to a book of the Bible or a section of the Bible or a section of a book or a passage. And so I can recall getting a lot of insight regarding the forest of different passages in Romans when I read that book. And then also one on Revelation. This is a little bit of an unusual commentary, Steve Gregg, because it's not a classic commentary. It lists 4 views on the book of Revelation, and it does it in the column by column format. So this is about the 6th seal. These pages are about the 6th seal, and they have a historicist view, the preterist view, the futurist view, and the idealist view. And that 4-column format continues throughout the book. So it's a little bit unusual, but nevertheless, it's a resource that I'm glad to have had on my shelf over the years. So those are 10 commentaries that are kind of been helpful to me, that aren't considered among the top tier necessarily, but still beneficial and impactful. So let me know if you read any of them, and let me know what your recommendations in such a category would be. Thanks for watching.